I was going to one in Downers Grove, and we started talking to people and about having a SharePoint Saturday. So in 2013, we ran our first SharePoint Saturday, and then after that, we've been doing those for a while. So they've now changed to Microsoft 365 virtual conference because of the pandemic, and we're going to be having our 10th one on June 4th. So I've got more information on that. Ralph. This is not where he's at. Ralph actually works at Sujeti.
Hey, I thought I fixed that. Didn't I fix that on the slides?
You probably did, but I probably didn't pull the deck down again. This is probably the deck I had. So
you shared a deck with me, and that's what I updated.
All right,
one of the link.
If you could do me a favor and fill some time, I'll pull down the correct deck. So you can introduce yourself. You can talk about yourself.
Sure enough. Okay, let's get some video on here while I'm at it. All right. Ralph Rivas over here, now with not Magenic over there, with Sojeti. I'm a national solution architect over here, so I'm just basically doing things that are larger level, so to speak. One of my most recent accomplishments is the second update of the licensing guide that I dared to do. Licensing guide, docs.microsoft.com, the citizen developer licensing guide. It's not called that anymore because they don't want to call them the citizen developers exactly, but take a look. Licensing questions, guess what? At the end of the session or throughout, if it comes up, or if you just want to ping me on the side chat, this is your chance. Beat me up with your licensing questions. I got them. Even Microsoft doesn't want to answer those, so feel free to ask me. And it's better that I take the heat than they do, right? Which is fine with me.
I could have used you in my Power Admin training that I've been doing this week.
So you never know. I might be available. Ping me. Who knows? You could just like like those guest stars that show up on like David Letterman or those days. They just like
I'm going to do a session on the Center of Excellence, Ralph. If you want to join that tomorrow.
Oh God, man. Let's talk Center of Excellence. That's my right now top of mind. Center of Excellence, ALM. Hey, did you talk about our talk that we're doing, or our talks that we did? So, yep, we're
Not
doing
yet.
a lot of it. We're in a push for ALM. We're in a push for doing it properly. In other words, yeah, we're in the push.
Yes.
All right, that's all I got. That's all I have for now. Let me bring bandwidth to the world.
So then we have Shannon. We've talked to her a little bit. Shannon, if you just want to say hi and say, you can either intro yourself now or wait till you give your talk and go into a longer spiel. We're flexible on what you want to say, or if you just want to say hi.
Sure, yeah. I'll just say hello. Nice to meet you all. User groups are my home, so I feel really happy to be here. Just one quick disclaimer. There is a dog at my feet. So if you hear barking, that is the dog.
Yes. I like the color of your shirt. We matched. We planned that. Ralph did not join. So interesting story about dogs is I have a dog. It's a small cockapoo, and I'm about ready to beat it because my wife started working again. She was off for a while. And when she works downstairs in the dining room table. She's got all spread out, but for some reason the dog goes and sleeps by her feet and guards her. And if I am in my office and I go up to go downstairs or anything, he just starts, before I even get down the stairs, he's growling, starts barking all over her conference calls. It's ridiculous. It's like he doesn't know who I am. So we're trying to figure out how we curb
I'm sorry.
that.
That's my Chihuahua impression. Sorry.
Yeah, he guards her. If he has a ball, he guards everything. It's really, he's for the most part a really nice dog, but just that's his bad thing.
Shannon's like wondering what the heck kind of meeting is this? The sound effects and everything.
Let's see. So we've kind of already done the introduction. Anybody that I don't know? Jim, did you say hi when you came in? You're offline.
I did not get to say hi. Hello, I've kind of come in and out. So I've been on some of these sessions over the last year. Name's Jim Sutman. I'm with the Asset Protection Department in Walgreens, and
nice.
been using Power Automate, Powerapps, and Power BI now for about 1.5 years. So I'm still consider myself a rookie.
Yeah, you can move yourself out of the rookie category if you've been using it that long. Just my opinion, it does not take long before you can move out of that.
You've gained a badge by sheer time.
Yes, it hasn't been around that long, so it's really hard not to get that much experience. So let's see. Renee said hi when we first joined. Renee, you want to tell us where you work from? Or anything about you?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, I work for ITW for the Enterprise Business Solutions team. We basically kind of create resources, support, projects and things like that on the enterprise level. Kind of going through like an exodus of leaving the old services behind, and currently we're dealing with a lot of projects because the new services kind of provide more opportunity, kind of advanced processes, and obviously you guys know this, but ITW was heavily into the SharePoint world 10 years ago. So, Workflow 2010 retirement was a big project, as you could only imagine.
Yes, I've worked through that with a couple of my customers. We're not happy about it, so but it's been fun. And now we're getting ready to do InfoPath. So
yeah, that's next. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Dave McCullough from Island Lake. Anything you want to add? I know you said hi when you first came on.
Yeah, I work for a security and solutions integrator out of Omaha, Nebraska. I spend a lot of time in the Azure space, dabble in SharePoint 365. We're transitioning over to Dynamics, and we'll probably start leveraging the Power Platform a little bit more. So I'm just here to learn.
Sweet. And then I got Songmei Lai. I don't think that you've said anything since you joined. So kind of hoping you're here.
Hi, my name is Songmei Lee, and I work.
Lee, sorry.
Yeah, I work for NORC, software engineer. So I work using the Power Platform, Microsoft Flow, and Powerapps, also Lintex, Office 365 workflows.
Nice. Where are you calling in from?
NORC.
Well, cool. Thanks for coming.
Those skills are in demand. I will tell you right now. If you have Nintex and you have Power stuff, in demand.
Autumn, I know you said hi, but you want to do a recap of who you are, where you're from?
Absolutely. So I'm Autumn in the Iowa City area, and I work for Integrated DNA Technologies and our parent company, Danaher, from time to time. I am the only person that works in the Power Platform in my company for now. So trying to keep up with demands from people who aren't quite sure what's possible or not. So that's always a challenge. Keeps things interesting.
Nice. Cool. Thank you for coming. Do you know Todd Clint? He's out in your neck of the woods. He's pretty big in the SharePoint world.
I don't think I do.
You should look him up. One of his best friends is... Who's Todd's best friend? Shane Young. He puts out tons of videos on the Power Platform.
Shane Young. Friend to Chewy. Speaking of dogs.
Yes. Yes, there you go. He also has, what is it? Power Platform 911 is his company. So he puts out like a YouTube video a day.
Powerapps 911, much easier to type.
Yeah, Powerapps. Sorry. And I think that we've covered everybody. Ivan's from Calgary. He said, thank you for having these. And he's a power user. Ivan, what do you do as a power user?
I work for several nonprofits in a consultative role, and as one of the users just spoke here, I think the lady from DNA Technologies as a power user, get tasked with doing things that are almost impossible, and sometimes because the users don't know, we don't use the things that are really easy and possible. Thank you.
Right. Cool. Thanks for coming. Alrighty. So we're gonna join in. We've had the welcome. We've had the introductions. I just have a few little updates, and then we'll get into Shannon and let her talk. Then we'll have closing questions. Ralph always loves to plug his licensing, and then a wrap up. So we'll kind of try to keep it informal here. Updates. One of the first ones that you should know about, and we will share this deck after the meeting, is Ralph. You can throw these links in here, but me and Ralph and a couple other people are doing M365. It is a Chicago virtual event sponsored by Veeam. Tickets are on sale. They're free. So if you want to sign up, no harm, no risk.
That's a sale. 100% off.
That is a sale. 100% off. And if you don't like it, you can get your money back. So
and if you win a prize there, it's 110% off.
Yes. So tickets are on Eventbrite if you want to go there, or if you just go to m365chicago.com, there's a link to it.
I did a math joke for the Power BI folks. Sorry about that.
If you want to check out the schedule, we have 8 tracks going 8 wide. So I think about 64 bits. So we've got a lot of Powerapps, and we've got some Power BI, and we've got everything, something for everybody. So you can just kind of peruse that. Power BI to Excel. So kind of a focus, and then our teams going across. We tried to represent Chicago with our tracks. The next thing that I just want to let you know, if you're interested in how we build stuff in Power Platform or just code and stuff, Microsoft Build, which is our big developer conference that used to cost, to Ivan's point, $2,000 to $3,000 to go if you could get a ticket. It sold out fast. Really hard to go in person. So that one is kicking off next week. So you can sign on, and now it can be, now it's free. So you can join on. And I believe if they do it like the other events that they've been doing, they kind of roll 24 hours. So if you miss a session, it's going to be available to watch on recording. And I just had a couple of new things because mostly I was too busy to pull information over. So first one, partners are introducing a new way to manage and enforce licenses for your projects in your Power Apps. Ralph, do you know anything about that?
Yeah. So even part of the COE stuff that's going on out there, the whole COE, initiative of Center of Excellence and where to manage things. So there are various partners have various ways of getting at this, and I can't exactly talk about all the different partners and all the different ways, and I don't want to favor my company over somebody else necessarily. But the concept is if the partners, let's just say, are going in hand with Microsoft to understand all the aspects of how that stuff works, so that when they introduce this stuff, especially to a large company, this is really for companies that are of a certain size, they basically get started with that way of tracking and monitoring from the get-go, rather than having to figure it out later. Unfortunately, a lot of people are in the case of okay, we've been using this for several years now. What's going on? So it's that's a different story, of course, but that's the idea over here. The idea is to enforce licenses and everything else. There are partners that have programs to take care of it. If you'd like to talk to mine, but otherwise any partner that you may be working with right now.
Cool. And then I thought this one was pretty cool. We have the 2021 Power Apps demo Extravaganza. I put the link to it, but basically we're just having a little contest, or the Power Apps team is. Charles Sterling, who spoke at our February event, is the one that posted this, but just basically you can submit an entry of something that you built, and I'm sure there will be prizes and those kind of things if you picked a pretty good thing. And then this one is Better Together. Custom design pages in the Modern App Designer with Power Apps. Ralph, do you know anything about this?
Hold on, let's open this one up. If I think it's what it is. Is this the custom pages for the portal?
It is the custom pages for the apps that they're starting to introduce that you can have data-driven apps with a canvas.
I'm sorry. The model-driven. Yeah, the so-called model apps.
Yes.
Is what we're talking about. Yes, that's so. What they're, I thought it was still NDA, so I didn't realize that they came out with it already, but they're announcing it.
They posted this. This is on an announcement on the blog, so if it wasn't supposed to be,
this is fairly recent then. Last I was talking about this, it was still under NDA. The idea was that the canvas and the whatchamacallits, the model-driven apps, there's going to be a convergence in how these are built, so you don't have to go to 5 million different places to build them, or you have like so many different ways of building something. They are going to make it better. Yeah, and this custom pages is part of the journey there.
Right. So cool. And then this is part of what's on here was a part of a Home Depot kind of test pilot for that. So they rolled that out. That again, you can
Office Depot. You mean?
You can mix the two apps, or will be coming. I don't think it's generally announced, but this will be coming in the future, and or generally available. And I believe that there will be more talk about this in build, if I'm guessing. Maybe not, but I would think they're going to talk about it in build, because I know there's some Donna Sakar, if anybody knows her, is one of the project managers who tweets heavy on Powerapps, and she was saying that there was something that was really exciting about what she saw while preparing for the build that she will think will be incredible when it gets announced. I don't know what that means.
I like her position of actually being and they let her be a business owner on her side, which she actually has a business, like I believe it's a design and dressmaking business that she works with. So she actually gets to use the same materials that are put together, and she has, like, let's just say, the perspective of, well, here's a business that has a need, and hey, look, here's a system that actually fills that need. It's really neat. So if you're not following her, it's a high recommendation, especially if you're working with small companies.
Yeah, and Microsoft's really opened up their policies on that. I know before they didn't like freelancing or moonlighting, as they called it, of any kind, but they're now, if it's not directly a competition to what you're doing and you get it, I think you can get it approved fairly easy. They will let you do that, just as long as you can still keep up your day job, and she's pretty good at that.
And she's actually very good at that, yeah.
Yeah, and then we have what's new in the Power BI. So I think I put this link here.
Paste the link, yep.
Like that.
Because there's a lot.
There's a lot, so I didn't want to go through it. But we have new modern visual tips, small multiples now on demand. If you guys know anything about Power BI, that is the one thing that I am not good at. I just wanted to say that there's some new stuff coming out here, direct queries for Power BIs. I believe Shannon said she was a Power BI person. Maybe she has some things that she saw that is cool that you could talk to, or you want to. And what's nice about this one is it's got a video for all the updates. So I don't want to play that, but if you guys want to go watch it, you can.
Yeah, the sheer volume of the updates every month is a lot to keep up with. If you are in the Power BI space, what I like to do is to take a look and see what's kind of relevant to me, and then I share that with my own group, because it's just too much to keep up with everything.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, watch the video. Again, we kind of focus on Powerapps and Power Automate here. That's just because that's what mine and Ralph's skill set are. But
so I'm actually getting more Power BI-ish lately. It's because the cool thing about Power BI is, like, if you want to try to get into it and maybe on the side, because that's not really your focus, I'll tell you what you do. Every time you get one of those spreadsheets and you have a lot of things to analyze, force yourself to use the little Power BI desktop to play around with the data. After a while, you'll be like, why was I ever using Excel? Just saying. And then you might learn something. So, who knows? More to add to your resume. Just saying.
Yeah. So the sad part about Power BI and Sogeti, where Ralph works, I used to work at Sogeti years ago before Ralph did. And when Power BI first rolled out, I went through all the new release stuff. So I got certified on it, and then I never got assigned anything having to do with data, because I was doing SharePoint migrations and stuff like that, because that's what we were selling. So I should be a lot better if I'd have kept doing it. I would be pretty good at it, but I just never got back to it. So I need to get back to it, but I just can't find the time. And with that being said, Those are what I wanted to cover for our updates, and that is putting us pretty close to 6 o'clock. And we told Shannon that she could start right at 6 o'clock, and I don't want to be
You are
mislead her
on the
that.
money. That rehearsal really paid off today, didn't it?
It worked. It's just I've learned how to fill time, as me and Shannon were talking about doing all day training. So
yeah, she was a good sport. She did all her lines perfectly.
Shannon, I will let you take it away, and I don't think I need to share presentation rights with you, so you should be able to just share your screen or do whatever you do.
All righty. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. I do want to give just the advanced warning that my computer is super laggy when I am sharing my screen. So I am actually going to turn my video off. And give me just a moment. I'm going to pull up the chat as well so that I can just drop things in there as we go and also see if anyone has questions. Related to people having questions, the whole purpose of this talk is for us to share our experiences with each other. I currently work at Microsoft, but that's not where I come from. I've only been there for, I'm coming up on 6 months, so I haven't been there for a long time. And what I'd like to do is to make sure that if this is something you're considering, that you can hear, of course, from me what the landscape is, but that you can hear from the others in the group what their experiences are. So I would really encourage everyone to take yourselves off mute, jump in whenever you can, because I'd love to just make this as participatory as possible. And I'm sure you probably heard me click my mouse, but my video did not turn off. So, alrighty, perfect. Here we go. Okay, so let's get started. Just a quick introduction. Sorry, clicking through. My intro slide is hidden. That's really funny. But just a little bit about myself. My background is I do actually come from the nonprofit space. I have a background in global public health, and I got introduced to the Power platform working, really deploying solutions for nonprofits in a healthcare setting where we had offices all over the world. So I got the chance to start with Power BI from the very beginning, and I'm a data person, so Power BI is really my true love. But I also, when working with all the data, I learned how unstructured and dirty the data was, and from there I started building and deploying Powerapps so that we had more control over our data validation. And then we did some live streaming data sets, and we used Power Automate to, pull everything together between our Power App and Power BI streaming data. So I have had a chance to use it all in the wild, but I have recently moved over to working with Microsoft, and I'm now working on the worldwide learning team. And I am managing the data analyst role-based certification. So it's all a mouthful, but essentially the stuff that I used to do that I really love, I now get to do for a living. So here we are. Today, we are going to talk about just a few things. We're going to talk about why you should get certified. We're going to go over the landscape of certifications that exist out there. There's lots of letters and numbers and confusing looking things. So we're just going to go through it a little bit. And then we're going to go over the how piece of things. So for the first thing that I want to mention is many of us may have our own reasons to be certified, and they may not be on this slide, and that's okay. But I want to just mention that this is not a sales pitch. If you want to get certified, get on with your bad self, get certified, have a ball. I'm not trying to sell anyone anything here, but I do want to show, what the benefits can be. So with that being said, I'd love to see just in the chat, if you have any kind of tech certification, it does not have to be from Microsoft. I'd love if you can just drop into the chat why you got that certification or what it has done for you in your career. And as those start to come in, I'm just going to sort of jump through the list here. And really what we know is that experience is great. We all have it on our resume, right? But how do you demonstrate your knowledge and skills to employers and to colleagues? And the real way, beyond, like a practical exam before the interview, is to get certified. So we've got some answers coming in here. Personal satisfaction, needing things for the job. And those do fall right into this slide. It's almost like we planned that. So certification, all it does is demonstrate that you're proficient in the specific real world skills that are associated with these recognized industry roles. And a lot of work goes into defining what the role is, making sure that it fits within the landscape of other tech companies, and making sure that these roles are, the real roles that are happening out in the world. And the Microsoft certifications, they are updated continually, but at least annually. The roles are looked at and redefined with a group of subject matter experts. So you may wonder sometimes, why are these things always changing? It's kind of annoying, but the reason behind that is because it's to help all of us and to make us stay relevant. So being certified can help you get hired faster. I don't know how many of you have been on hiring panels recently, but there are, always a lot of applicants, and there are always a lot of people who claim to be Power Platform experts. And it's very interesting. You can tell just by having a conversation with them that they may not be an expert, and that's okay. But having the certification really sets you apart, because we know that you have passed this rigorous exam and that you're able to perform these skills. So that's what it's all about. Of course, certifications help with recognition. You will get rewarded potentially, potential for promotions, and then of course for personal satisfaction. One other just thought here about personal satisfaction: if the cost of the certification is the barrier for you and you decide that the actual certification is not something you're going to work towards, you also will get the same satisfaction by going through the content and help, making sure that you have learned everything that is in that certification. And all of the resources that you need are online, and we're going to go through it and show you what's there. All right.
Just to add to because I know Ivan talked about cost. A lot of times there's the ability to get it for half price or whatever. If you sign up for things like Build or Ignite, they will have discount codes. So check and make sure you're looking at that kind of stuff if that's the barrier for getting an exam.
And sometimes free, they have those challenges. So like when you finish them, they'll give you like a freebie to take. So watch out for those. Every free opportunity you can get a hold of. I say opportunity is opportunity. Come on, open the door.
Yeah, and those opportunities are really sweet. So the one that happens every year is the Ignite Cloud Skills Challenge. When I say every year, I think there were 2 Ignites last year. So this was the 3rd Cloud Skills Challenge. But essentially you can get 1 certification for free. And later on in the presentation, we can also talk about how you can make the argument for your employer to help you get certified. If that's something, if you're self-employed, well, that's a different story, but we can talk about that as well.
Those are the tips we want. Those are the tips we want. We're going to put you up to that one for sure.
Good. I'm here for it. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, I am a data person. I want to show you a little bit of data that backs up my argument here, because of course I can say all day long, oh yeah, you should get certified. But the thing that really draws my eye here, yes, self-confidence and job satisfaction are critically important, but the one that really catches my eye here is the increase in your salary or wage. These skills are really valuable, and becoming certified is, and that's your argument right there for maybe your potential next raise or promotion. So drilling down a little bit into the salary and wage data. So this was 10,000 IT professionals from 138 countries were surveyed. And it's a little interesting because we're talking about IT professionals, and we are a mix of many different types of professionals here. But of the 35% that reported a salary increase, this is kind of the spread of the percent increase. And I found this really interesting, and I'd be curious to know what you all are seeing kind of out in the real world right now, because I actually believe that it is higher. I believe that it's gone up since 2018, particularly when it comes to Power Platform.
So I will say I don't know for me that has been, I've increased my income, and I've gotten some certifications, but the other thing that I have been doing, or at least that has really helped, is doing the things like the user group, increasing my network, speaking at conferences and things like that, and just getting more out. And the certifications help when you try to apply to conferences to speak. So I will say that. And I've worked at a couple of them that will at least give you like a $500 or $1,000 bonus for getting a certification. So I always would recommend looking at that to do it. So you might not get like an overall raise, but they'll give you money for it. Some of them will.
Yeah, good point. I mean, to me, I come from this kind of community background, and it's the community that has really helped me in my career. And it was also being involved in the community that helped me understand that I probably should get certified. And then almost immediately after my first certification, which I think it was analyzing data with Excel, actually, an exam that no longer exists. But the minute you start listing those certifications on your LinkedIn profile, people start reaching out to you immediately for other positions. So being involved in the community and doing the certification and putting yourself out there, I feel like all of it works well.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you said it, that when I've updated my LinkedIn profile to have a certification on there, I've gotten people to ping me about those things too.
Yeah.
So
there is a gamification thing going on, and the recruiters now have that in their tools to start looking stuff up. So there may be a benefit that you don't know yet till it happens. Just saying.
Yeah, definitely. And Sungmai is saying that you have passed several certifications but have not gotten the raise. So that is also really interesting. So clearly this data that we have on the screen here is not representative of everyone, but it's our hope that we can give you some tips today for not only the certification, but also what Craig mentioned, just, being active in this community really can help your career and just help you form a sense of community depending on, where you are and where you are in your career and all that good stuff. Okay, so now we are going to jump into the certs, and do not go cross-eyed looking at all these words on the slide. Don't worry about this. I'm actually going to jump over to this certification landscape here that I just wanted to point out. So the thing that I think is really intimidating when it comes to Microsoft certifications, well, probably all certifications, is there's like this enormous list of certifications. They all have these numbers associated with them. Some are expert certifications, some have prerequisites. It's really difficult to know what they all are. But the nice thing about Microsoft is that they've put together this poster and they list out, the fundamental exams are at the bottom. So these are really the scratching the surface. They're pretty broad and shallow, if I can say it that way. So these are your 900 level exams. And if you have anyone, maybe it's a colleague or a friend or someone who you're saying, hey, maybe you should dip your toe into the Power Platform world, well, maybe they should start here with the Power Platform fundamentals. So just wanted to point this out and actually drop the link in the chat to this so that if anyone is interested in sharing this, you are welcome to. And then we're going to get back into the meat of things. So essentially, we talked now about why you should get certified. Now we're going to talk about what are the options. So we know right now that there is a huge increase in data and technology, and the demand for these low-code, no-code developer jobs are higher than ever. But the first thing that we all have to decide is, where is it that we really want to go? How deep do we want to go? What is our path? Do we want to focus more on, Powerapps and, go down that path? Do you want to focus on Power BI and go down the data path? Where is it that you want to start? So I always recommend that the first step is to think about, what are the options and where is it that I want to go? And Ralph is dropping some notes in the chat about having a dev tenant. And Ralph, do you want to tell people who may not know what that is a little bit about it?
Yeah, so like literally every meeting we have, we always bring that up. If you don't have a dev tenant, get one. I always put the link HTTPS aka.ms. Right now the only link I have is O365 dev program, but there are several other links to it. The idea though is you get a full E5 tenant. And E5 is pretty much the full security, all the power of the battle station, as they say. You get up to 25 users that you can create. In fact, they give you data packs. So 16 of those users are your favorite Contoso users that you've that you probably missed all these years. You can get them all, right? And add other people if you want. Add yourself. You can do things like connect to your domain and make that work. The act of learning how to use it gives you admin skills that you rarely see if you're not an admin, because that's the stuff that's kept hidden from you for the most part. But especially for doing the Power Platform management, administration, all that stuff, you need the admin screens in full power, not like cut off like, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. You can't learn with that. You need the full. I need it completely open. I don't care if Comrade whatever knows my address. I just need it open right now. Okay. By the way, turn on MFA when you do get it. But anyways, yes, you see what I'm saying? You get the dev tenant and you can play and play and play. Turn on the trials. Get it all going. And that makes all this stuff useful, because otherwise without it, you're just reading and you don't have any context. Right? You can't read a book and learn. You have to immerse. That's the best way to pass the test.
I could not agree more.
We like to tell them, or what I like to tell people is you get and Ralph, I think, may have said it, but you get the keys to the kingdom, right? I work at Microsoft, but I've worked at other, places along the way. And if I wanted to get in and look at what was going on in the Security and Compliance Center and set up like e-discovery so I can play with that, nobody is going to let me do that in a tenant of my employer is certainly not going to let me do that. Like maybe if I get lucky, they have a proxy or something like that. But if I got my own development, and that's how I mean, for years, that's how we used to have the single license, and I think I was paying $8 a month for it, but it was worth it to me just to be able to say anything that I wanted to learn, I could go in to try it, and I didn't have to ask anybody's permission. That was my big thing.
Yeah. And, just a little bit more data to add to the conversation. I do get to see how the exam questions score. And I can tell you from the Power BI side that people do struggle more with the admin questions than some of the others. And I think the reason for that is exactly what Ralph and Craig just mentioned. If it's something you've never been hands-on in the product with, it's harder to understand. So that might be the key takeaway of this whole presentation is using that dev account. So thank you so much. The reason that I wanted to kind of go over this slide and show everybody what the options are in the Power Platform space is, number one, just to talk about kind of what these exams are. And number two, to make sure that everybody has the links to the landing pages here, because if you just see these numbers, it's hard to remember what they are and differentiate between all of them. So please, I put the link to the presentation in the chat earlier on, and if I need to drop it again, I can, but these will be hopefully helpful to you. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to click on one of these links, and we're going to go to the Power Platform App Maker. So this is the PL100. And we are looking at this in Microsoft Learn. So for those of you that may not be familiar with Microsoft Learn, this is Microsoft Learning Platform, and it has really, really incredible what we call learning paths that take you through step by step all of the skills you need to be able to pass the exam. So I just wanted to jump to this landing page, show everybody what it looks like and what you should be looking for once you pick the exam you're going to start with, and show you how to find what are the skills I need and where are the lessons that are going to help me pass the test. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just scroll down past all this scheduling. We can come back to that later if people are interested. But the first thing I wanted to show you is this skills measured section here. And what you can do is you can download the skills outline. And what this does is it takes you through what are the exact skills that are going to be measured on the test. So if you're studying and you're walking through this, let's say this is something you're already experienced in, but you want to get the certification so that you can put it on your resume and apply for new jobs. What you can do is you can say, okay, thinking about design solutions, create a high-level design. Okay, I'm familiar with high-level design. I very much understand collecting business requirements. I know how to identify data sources, yada, 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 so on and so forth. So you can go through these and kind of tick them off as you study for the exam. So what I like to do is I just take this whole thing, I copy and paste it into a OneNote, and then I start ticking them off as I go, just making sure that I know those skills, I'm familiar with them, and I feel like I could answer questions about them. So this is, I find, really helpful. This is just your exam skills outline. And for many of these, let me just cross-check this one. Okay, so this one must not have been updated recently, but for most of these, when an update is published, so let's say that a new feature is released in the tool and they decide, okay, this tool, this feature has been GA for a while. We want to make sure that that becomes a part of the certification. That gets updated in here and we publish the track changes version so you can see what has been added to the exam. Oh, and it looks like Chuck is joining us. Hey, Chuck.
Chuck's in the house.
Shannon, Lindsay, how are you folks doing?
Hi there. We are just talking about Power Platform certifications.
You were just commiserating. I mean, we were just, yeah, certification.
That is so out of character for you, Shannon.
Shocker, right?
I'll let you get back to it. You guys are in excellent hands with Shannon taking care of you in this space. Hey, Craig, it's nice seeing you here too. Sorry.
Alrighty, so jumping back in, guys. So we just looked at the exam skills outline. So like I mentioned, this is a good place to start. The next, well, the best resource that we all have available to us is to follow these learning paths. And I just want to click into one so that you can see what it is and how it can help you. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 5? Can I count? These 5 learning paths contain all of the skills that you are going to be tested on when you take this exam. Now, it's not necessarily going to, verbatim, skill for skill, word for word, prepare you for the exam. But if you follow these learning paths, you will cover all of the content that was outlined in this document that we just looked at. So let's jump into the first learning path here, just so you can see a little bit of what it looks like. So what you can see here, there's a time estimate for the learning path, and it may take that long if you go through it word for word, or it can be faster if this is something you're already familiar with, but you just want to double check your skills. And then what you can see here is that there are different modules that you can go through. One thing that I really, really like about each of these modules, so now I've introduced a little bit of Microsoft terminology. So we talked about the learning path, which is the overall, it's the road you're going down. And then now we're getting into the modules. And within each module, there are these lessons. But what I love about this is that there are knowledge checks at the end. And when you answer the knowledge checks, I'm just going to randomly pick some answers without even reading these. But when you answer them, you're able to check and, oh, what are the odds? I picked 3 wrong answers. But the nice thing is that it tells you why your answer is wrong, and they're really, pretty simple to follow. So if you are wanting to, do your very first take of going through the content, seeing if you know it, I think that these learning paths are the best place to start. Is there anyone on the line that has used the Learn content before that wants to say anything about it?
The answer is always C, Shannon. You should know that. No, I've done. Well, here's the thing. This is like almost like a key thing. There's actual folks in actual, let's just say, very, very serious programs following this plan as you see it with what it is. And I began to figure out why. You see, they're short little bites of what you're getting. it doesn't have to engage you for a full hour just to figure something out, like some of the other kinds of lesson plans that they used to have in the old days. This is like literally exactly the right size, and the actual information that it asks you at the end is actually very good, because if you get them wrong, other than of course remember it's C, if you get them wrong, you get to understand why you're wrong before you have to find out the hard way. Right. And again, it's not a substitute for actually playing with the actual touching of the tech. All right. But it helps.
Yes, so. Ralph, thank you. And speaking to just the actual touching of the tech, the idea behind these role-based certifications, I'm just going to jump back to the list of them here. The idea behind these role-based certifications is that you have experience in the role, or you are prepared to act in the role. So we're really trying to make sure that we're preparing you for the real world, or if you're coming from the real world, you're demonstrating your skills in using these tools.
If you're a leopard that wants to change his spots, well, it just say there's going to be pain when you make the change, right? But again, if you're coming in from what you know, but like writers always say, write what you know. That's exactly the situation. That's why they did it in this way. You follow a path. Get the path of least resistance certification is do what you're familiar with, what your closest role is, and then think about expanding. Work your way outwards, but start where it's let's say a straight line.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And speaking of lines and where to start, so we talked about the why. This is now the what, and then we're going to talk about the how. But going through the what a little bit more, I have a slide for each of these certifications. We don't necessarily need to go through each of them one by one. Is there any one of these certifications that anyone on the line wants to start with? Why don't we call out one of these and we'll take a look at the learning path specifically.
I'll ask a question that I've actually wondered, but why are the 900 ones the fundamental ones?
So there doesn't, I don't know the official Microsoft answer to this. Maybe someone else on the line knows, but the number is not associated with the level of expertise. So you will notice that if we go back to that overview here, as you mentioned, the 900s, which are the highest number, are the fundamentals. And then, for the most part, the 1 and 200s are your, I don't want to say introductory level because these are professional certifications. However, that's not always the case. So when you think about, what are the expert level certifications, you really have to go off of just, what's this little star, what has prerequisites, and then you need to take a look at the learning paths themselves.
Yeah, I know for like the identity ones for M365, the 100s are actually the tougher ones because I've taken a couple of those.
Well, the concept, I think, of 100, it means core. Core, like deep core. Whatever it is. Sometimes they're tougher because, they're tough. If you want to go deep core identity, it's going to be tough. There's no other way around it. If you want to go deep core, say, just Azure developer, it's not really that bad. Deep core, you get to know all the bits, right? But you're not exactly doing the identity pieces or like the individual pieces that make it really hard to use, right? So that's how I've been seeing it. 100s as core, 900 as like big, big picture. As in fundamentals, right? And then whatever is in between, to whatever degree, that's what the in-betweens are, the specialists.
Cool. Yeah, I just for anybody who's interested, the Power Platform 900, I've taken that. It's a pretty good exam. I won't say that it is a fundamental one. So if you've been playing around with it for a while, you probably will be able to pass it. I would review the learning path for that. Ones that I struggled with were the questions on Power BI, and there were some dynamic 365 questions, I believe, that got into what is now the Dataverse, but the rest of them were fairly good. But I think you had to have a decent knowledge of doing it. I wouldn't say it would be like hey, you don't need any skill, just go out there and take it. But if you
again, you get to play. What's actually really helpful, especially in the Power BI side, is the fact that now you can get a trial easily, for the
Yes.
Power BI to play with, and the fact that now you can get an enterprise for yourself license, which you didn't have before. So even if you have to pay, I mean, getting that level is what you needed to really understand it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Power BI, and we also had Ivan request Power BI in the chat here. So this is
Yes.
perfect. We'll jump into this. For the Power BI learning paths on Learn, there are labs that exist within each of the modules, and you're able to play around with Power BI on a virtual machine. So if, for example, you are a Mac user, we will not hold it against you. We will let you log into the VM and go ahead and complete the lab on the virtual machine. So that does exist there. Now, just going into, you know, what is on this slide? What is the exam covering? We have a little blurb for each of these, and these are in the deck that I provided about who the certification is aimed at, who is this for, what is the role that this person is acting in. And, you know, a team of experts came up with these definitions. And like I mentioned previously, they are reviewed on an annual, at least annual basis. So right now, the data analyst associate measures these skills here. So we've got our preparing data, modeling data, visualizing data, analyzing data, and then the hardest one for a lot of people here, well, drawing is hard for me, but the hardest test questions for folks here are this deploying and maintaining deliverables. So that goes back directly to what Ralph was mentioning before when we were talking about getting that dev environment and playing around with, you know, having admin privileges so that you can understand how those things would work. So once you take and pass the exam, you then have this DA100 certification. You are a Microsoft Certified Data Analyst Associate, and this rivals, there are Data Analyst Associate certifications with other companies as well. So if you're interested in looking at what ours contains, you can jump to this link. You can go see everything that's inside of it. You can go through the learning path and see, you know, is this something I want? Is this a road you want to go down? Are there any other individual roles that anyone wants to take a look at? Sorry about my clicking through the slides, but I'm gonna just jump back to the summary here. Is there any other one that someone's like, oh, I haven't considered the solution architect expert before. What does that entail?
Since you mentioned it, I actually was interested in that because that's a newer one, isn't it?
I don't really know the definition of new, to be honest. I'm not sure when it came out, but let's take a look at it.
I think it's a bit new, mainly because it has some of the stuff that just didn't exist for a proper solution architect to work with before. Remember how before the ALM was like fully cooked, right? You couldn't really, you know, be an architect necessarily. Well, you could, but not like now. Now you have, wow. Now you really got to know stuff to do it properly, to be a true architect.
All right, so our skills measured here. Well, so first of all, let's just
Solution envisioning, yeah.
Let's just start from the left side and just read who this is for. So this is people who are currently acting as solution architects or potentially senior consultants, or developers that aspire to be solution architects. So again, it's skills based for the role of a solution architect. So the skills that are measured are, and you know, this does look a little broad when you look at it at the top level, but once you get into the learning paths, you'll see more of the detail. So perform solution envisioning and requirement analysis, architecting a solution, and implementing a solution. And then if you jump down into knowledge and experience, you'll see a little bit more about that. But if you click the link here, that'll take you into the learning path in Learn.
Just as an equivalent
you gotta know the whole platform.
Yeah, so just an equivalent of 600s, on the, let's just say on the development side, that's the actual for a developer in SharePoint, for example, SPFX. It's like very, very hard exam, the 600 level. This is supposed to be hard, or is it? Does this one have did this one have an expert star on it? Remember, like some of them have stars.
This is an expert.
There it is. Yeah. So this one is the case of harder than it looks. It's like, oh, only 4 things? That should be easy. Piece of cake. Yeah.
Now, speaking of things being harder than they look, when you sign up to take the exam, there is actually a way that you can sign up where you get a retake.
Ooh, do
And
tell.
it's slightly more expensive than just signing up for one exam. And I can't remember the price off the top of my head, but it's definitely cheaper than taking 2 exams. So if you're going into something that is, maybe more of a challenge, and maybe it's because of the content, or maybe it's because of the format, and we're going to talk about the format in a little bit. I think it's called an exam replay, and you'll have the option to purchase that. All right, let's jump down a little bit further in the slide deck now. And we are now going to talk about the how. The dog wants to talk about this as well. I'm not sure if you guys can hear her barking in the background. But the first thing, like Ralph already mentioned, and that we've been trying to stress, is to identify your target role. And for some of us, this may be more challenging, especially if you're not already in this space. And in that case, your target role is going to be the fundamentals. That's a great place to start. If you do have a role in mind, then you can take a look at the available certs and you can go from there. If you are going back just to the Power BI example, if you are using Power BI every day and you've been using it for years, you want to take, and you know that you can probably pass the exam, then you might want to jump over into the data and AI portfolio. So right now we're just talking about, your target role within Power Platform, but remember there's a whole universe out there. So if these Power Platform certs are not at your level, there are certs that are. So my second tip here is just to use Microsoft Learn. We've been talking about this the whole presentation, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but it is a fantastic resource. The one thing that I find really challenging when learning a new technology is always the kind of, you don't know what you don't know. So if you're practicing something, like let's say you're practicing, you get that dev license and you're building your first Power App, and you get stuck, but you don't know what to Google. That can be really tough. So if you start by going through the learning paths, I feel like that helps you know at least what to Google. I'm sorry, what to Bing. Where do I work? All right, so use Microsoft Learn. The next tip that I have for you is to use practice exams. There are free practice exams out there. There are paid practice exams. I would say be really cautious with the exams that you do use, but there are two practice exams that partner with Microsoft. They are Measure Up and Mind Hub. And with those 2 practice exams, you'll see the exam questions in the same format that you see them on the exam itself. They're, of course, not going to be verbatim the same questions, but I find them really helpful. So that is Measure Up and Mind Hub. I'm just going to drop those into the chat. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention, for those of you on the Power BI side of the house, there is a community resource that is called Learn Data Insights. One of the data platform MVPs put this website together, and it is free. He calls them quiz questions, but it's free quiz questions, and I think you get up to 10 questions per day or something for free. So I'm going to drop that into the chat as well. And Ralph, do you want to elaborate on why there are no substitutes for those 2 sites?
So for years and years, there used to be all those like people like would post their their experiences of tests that were up there. And actually, that was actually nasty. That was actually a pretty bad thing. In a lot of cases, they would make mistakes. They wouldn't remember right. They would have all kinds of problems. People would get mad and try to complain to Microsoft. Said, "Hey, how come that answer is wrong and I was right?" And everything else is like, "No, where did you get your information?" It's like really bad stuff. It's not curated. It's not controlled. It's not official. It's like, how do I say it? It's like remember when we used to rip music for free, and it was nasty, and our poor artists like myself just didn't make any money anymore. You know, that's why I got into computers now. So, but still, and you see, imagine you would have been spared me had I not been robbed back of my licensing fees back in the day. All right. This is the thing that you want to avoid. You want to go to the places where it's curated, secure. At least there's the peace of mind, the confidence. They're not going to guarantee you're going to pass the test, right? But it's much, let's just say, the chances of actually getting through it are much better that way.
Yes, thank you.
And you're being a good a good citizen.
Yes.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, so you don't want to do what they call those brain dumps, where people
brain
have
dumps,
just
yes,
dumped in answers. And there's a lot of people out there who will just go get a brain dump and study those, not learn it and just pass the exam. And I think Shannon made a comment earlier that those are, when you're doing interviews, really easy to tell who's done that.
Yep.
Yeah, and speaking of brain dumps and things that are out there on the internet, that kind of brings us to the next point, which is our community resources. We have talked many times now throughout tonight just about how valuable these community resources can be. And the main point that I want to emphasize here is you can you can prepare for, take, and pass these exams completely for free. You don't need to take a class, and that's our next point here. You don't need to necessarily take a class. You don't need to necessarily do the paid practice exams. But if you rely on the community, you're going to find as much and more information out there that is really super helpful. So I am dropping 2 links into the chat to 2 wonderful women in this community who blog, and they have created some blogs about how to get started with these certifications. So Karina, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, Clausen, perhaps, has a nice blog. It's very recent. It's just from April of this year, and she's got her Power Platform Certs do's and don'ts. And I think that both Karina's blog and the next blog that we drop in here, Priscilla Camp, they both do a lot of nice overarching points about taking any sort of certification exam. But there are some really great tips in there about how to prep for these things, what to expect, and all that jazz. So rely on the community. And then finally, this last piece here, take a class. You always have the option to take a class. You can take an instructor-led training through Microsoft. You can take one through partners. You can, you can do the MOOC courses, so edX, Coursera, Pluralsight, any of those. But if that style of learning works well for you, might be something you want to look into. Thinking of these this is the how to get certified. For those of you that have been certified or have taken professional exams, are there any tips that you would add to this slide?
So I'm not sure now. Right now, I haven't taken some of these smaller exams yet, right? Because some of these look like they're smaller. Because I'm used to like those big ones, the ones that like take several hours to do. Those dev ones where you had to be in a room and they were watching you with 5 cameras looking at you and watching every breath you take and everything else like that. I tried, for example, early on in the pandemic season to try to do a certification test that time, try to get my own room certified for it. It could never pass. If it wasn't the PC that had all kinds of whatever crap that I had no idea was on there about, it was like my room just didn't look like it was empty enough for some secret hidden, I don't know, person to give me a hint or something, right? So how do they run these tests in pandemic situations? Are they that strict still, or is it different?
Ralph, it is as though you are seeing a preview of the slide deck, and I appreciate it.
Oh,
you're my co-presenter.
Uh-huh.
This is great. So as you mentioned, the format of the exams varies. So for example, for the PL 900 exam, which is the Power Platform Fundamentals exam, there are 40 to 60 questions and they have to be completed in 60 minutes. Whereas the Power BI, the DA 100, the data analyst role-based certification, is only 58 questions, and you get 3 hours to do it. However, the questions are a lot more involved. There are case studies where you have to answer multiple questions based on one pretty complex case study. There's a lot that goes into it. So the content for the number of questions, the passing score, the question types, all of that, that's all available out there online on the website, on the Microsoft website. But I think understanding what you're getting yourself into is really, really critically important. So speaking of that, you mentioned, how does this work during pandemic times? I have taken one of these exams during pandemic times, and I'm not sure how many other people have, but my advice to you would be, if you are able to be in a very controlled environment, that means no dogs, no children, no windows, no bookshelves, I'm talking like a blank slate, clean white room, you are probably going to have an okay time taking the exam online. So it's a proctored exam. They're looking at you on a camera. You're taking the exam on your computer. You do it from your home. And it can be stressful because, for example, like I had to cover my bookshelves in my office with sheets. So, you can't have anything that you could potentially be cheating with, which is great for the integrity of the certification. However, for different learning styles, it can pose different challenges. So with that being said, if you have the opportunity to go to a testing center, that may also stress some people out. So you just have to pick your poison there. At a testing center, you have live human proctors, and it's a computer lab. And at the testing center, you have a little whiteboard that you can take notes on. But when you're in your in-home environment, you are not able to write anything down. There is now a virtual whiteboard, which is new. It doesn't always work properly. So again, think about what it is that you prefer. But so speaking of kind of the exam environment, I'd love to hear if anyone else has taken any exams. Doesn't have to be during pandemic, but has taken certification exams at home, and what tips you may have.
Bueller. Like I said, I've never successfully been able to do it because essentially I got, the thumbs down every time. Now I'm about to figure it out, and I really would like to know how people are doing it. I hear people are doing it though. So
I have not had a problem. The first one that I took right at the beginning of the pandemic, they were a little bit picky, I thought. But since then, I have set up, like I would go down to my basement. There's nothing in my basement other than walls, really, for where I do it. And set a tray table there. And pretty much that was okay. I did one just sitting on my bed in my bedroom, and there was nothing around me. And then lately I've been setting the tray table just on the couch in my office, and I've got a ton of crap and monitors and stuff, but there's nothing really near me. So what they will do is have you take a picture of yourself, your ID, take a picture of the room in front of you, to the side of you, to both sides of you, the back of you. Then somebody will come on and they will have you hold your laptop up and rotate it so they can see if there's anything really close. If they do see something like a phone or something, they will tell you to move it. I have had them come on, like I one time put my hand over my mouth just because I was thinking, and I was like rubbing my chin and underneath my nose, and they told me that I can't do that. They had me take my watch off, which I was surprised on too. So it might depend on who's doing it at the time, but as long as there's nothing like immediately close to you, they seem to have laxed up a little bit since
my demise. Yes.
I think it really does depend probably on who your proctor is as well, because if you have other monitors on your table that have cords, that's going to be a problem. If you I'm going to go back a little bit to what you mentioned, Craig, with having your hand in front of your face. If you are the type of learner that likes to read things aloud, because you can't write anything down. So if you're the type of learner that likes to read things aloud, that's not allowed. So you really have to be mentally prepared ahead of time. And both of those blogs that I dropped in the chat do have some information on taking the exams remotely. But I think it's like, gauging your level of stress. what's going to be more stressful, clearing out your whole office or, you know, taking an exam on a bed compared to taking it in a testing center, you know, probably with a mask on and all that. So I think it really just depends. I have now done 3 remote exams and I've had different challenges with them each time. Now the latest exam I took, and Craig, I don't know what your experience was, but I was able to have water on my desk in the last exam.
Ooh.
So I was like 3 hours without water. I don't know if
they like you. Oh man.
I didn't
They look at
I
me.
never
They won't
tried
give me
that.
soup either, you know. So same guy won't give soup. He's the same guy. That's who tested.
I have done so I've taken a few of them so I've taken a few of them just because Microsoft we get a discount on it, so it's a lot easier for me to, you know, just want a full disclosure, I'm not just out there getting exams. So some of them I have not passed, obviously, because I don't have a litany of them on my spreadsheet on my wall, I guess. But like just doing it at your dining room table is fairly easy because you can clean that off. And there's usually nothing that is that near you. Now then you might have the problem with the dog and the kids and stuff like that, but I try to schedule it when they're not home. But again, it depends because I did that and I didn't have my laptop battery started to go and I just got up and sprinted to get the cord, and the guy was like, "Hey, where'd you go? What'd you do?" And I explained it to him and he's like, "Let me see the room again." And then he let me continue, but he told me that if that happened again, he was not going to be able to let me continue with the exam. So, yeah, it depends on who you have. Like I said, the first couple ones that I tried, they were very specific. You couldn't have anything out; things had to be covered, like you were talking. Now they just want to make sure that things aren't close enough to you to be able to read clearly or grab. And then that's why I've kind of been doing the card table type of thing where there's nothing really around me and I'm in the center of a room. It's just easier that way.
Oh yeah, and by the way, outdoors doesn't count either, by the way. I said, "Hey, I'm in the middle of a field. Would that work?" No.
I don't know that it wouldn't. You just
apparently,
have to have Wi-Fi connection.
There's carrier pigeons, smoke signals. I mean, how are they going to see that? You know, I figured that's what he was thinking, but seriously, I did ask. It's like, can I be outside in the middle of a field? The guy said, "No." So, okay.
Yeah.
He just doesn't make you off.
Just some things to consider when you think about taking these exams. And again, I am going to go back to, I mean, of course, we've been talking about how great it is to be certified and what it can do for you. But if this exam is not in the cards for you right now, if it's going to be, you know, we're still living through a global pandemic. So if something like this is too stressful right now, work through those learning paths, make sure you have all the skills, start using them, and then come back later and take the exam. You know, it's not like it's something you must do. What's really important is that we have these skills so that we can do our jobs, right?
It's the journey. It's all about the journey.
That's right.
I will tell you that the most frustrating part of taking the exam is not knowing what you missed.
Yes.
That's
and
been
then
forever.
figuring, well, did I have that? Did I have that wrong? So then if you go to retake it, then it's like, what did you know which areas to study, but it's still what was wrong with this question that I did. And especially because some of the ones that I don't like are pick some of the best answers. Like it's, you know, more than one answer can be true. You know, if they said if it was 3, then I would at least go, okay, you got to pick all 3, right? But then when you're kind of going, is it 3? Is it 4? Those kind of things. And then if you miss one of them, you think you missed the whole question. So.
Yeah, and the exams are challenging. So the one thing to mention, so for those of you who have not taken one of these before, you do get your score immediately at the end of the exam, and they will tell you the percent of questions that you got right per overarching section, but that's as much detail as you get. So, okay, we are getting close to the end of the hour here, so I'm just going to jump into my last slide here, and this is something that is relatively new that I wanted to talk about, and this is how to stay certified. So Microsoft recently, just back in March, they changed the certification. So, or the stay current is what they're calling it. They changed the way to stay current with your certification. So there are now no cost renewals. And you are able to do your renewal on the Microsoft website rather than through a testing center. So that means that you do not have to have this stressful testing situation again. You don't have to pay again. You will take an exam through Microsoft Learn, and that is how you will stay certified. So just heads up, that is going to be happening. They have also changed the validity of some of the exams. It's different for all of them, but for many of the exams, some of them had no expiration date, and some of them were valid for 2 years. So that is now going to be changing, and it actually is going to be changing starting in June, that all of the role-based certifications are going to shift to a 1-year certification. And that is so that, you know, these technologies are constantly changing. So we want to check every year that we still know what we're talking about in the moment and that we stay current. So I actually think that's a pretty cool change that they have done. And I've got a link here to the certification renewal schedule if anyone is interested. Now, these stay current exams are rolling out on a exam by exam basis. They're not all dropping all at once. So if you have any questions about your certification or the validity, or you notice that your exam is about to expire and you have questions, everything is available in the blog post, and you can just follow this link here and find it. So I wanted to mention the stay current. Any thoughts on this, guys?
I was going to say that actually aligns really with the industry. A lot of people. Here's the thing: a lot of people were saying it's like, how do we know these certs are worthwhile? Other than the fact that they should be hard for the reason. Mm-hmm. But if something never expired, everyone was a little skeptical. So that was 5 years ago. If somebody like right now, I don't know if you guys ever have a chance, folks ever have a chance to like review resumes for folks coming in, and they're like, maybe you want them to do Office 365, and they'll come in with like 10 years of SharePoint, everything, they've done it all, provider hosted apps and all that stuff. And then you realize, what about Power Platform? Nothing, because, and they have the cert, but it doesn't mean what it means, because it's not checked or not refreshed in that particular sense. So the refreshment is good. The fact is, though, the refreshment was difficult before when you had to pay $100, $150 each and every time. That was a pain. Right now, for my SAFE certification, same thing. I got to pay that $100+ per year. It's like an American Express a fee per year or something, But okay, this makes more sense. This is going to give adoption. I think this is going to help a lot.
Good. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, I didn't know that the renewals were no cost.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the stopping points for a lot of people. It's like, well, I get the cert and then I don't use it for a year, then I got to take it again. Oh man, I'll just not bother. Right? So, but now there's no excuse. Now let's say that excuse. Gone.
One of the things that I like about certs when I'm talking to people or I've had to interview them isn't so much whether or not they had the specific cert I was working for. And a lot of it has to do, we talked about community and stuff like that. If I'm talking to somebody and I've got equal people who seem to know what they're doing, for me, that can be something to give them a leg up, just because I like to see that they've taken that extra step in their career, or they've been a little bit helpful. Like I said, I just like to see that they're a little bit more involved than everybody. And they don't need to be like a workaholic or anything, but I don't want that either, where somebody just does that. But I do like to think that they're trying to do some legwork on their own to stay up in the industry and what's going on.
I mean, it shows commitment, for one thing. It's like when certs go stale. Like sometimes I'll see so by the way, if you're like sending me resumes, yeah, I look at this stuff. You get a resume and then you're on your top of your list is your 2010 SharePoint cert. I'm going to say, maybe you should take that off, because they don't do 2010 workflows no more. Maybe you should not emphasize these things, right?
I have that, but that's at the bottom.
Yeah, it's at the bottom. So you did the right thing and you put it where it belongs, right? But the idea, though, of doing it and keeping the renewals and stuff, let's just say somebody will notice. It's like, well, you're fresh with it. If I bring you in, I don't want you to have to go dig because otherwise I'm ramping you in. All right, the same way I would ramp someone who had zero knowledge. If you were Power Platform certified 3 years ago, my God, so much has changed that if you come now and you didn't touch it since then, you would be like, stepping off, into a different planet almost. It's like, oh, hey, have you heard about ALM? ALM? What's that? Something with light? I said, no, go home. All right. It's like things like that will come up. And you don't want that. You don't want it to be in that situation, especially if you're job seeking. And if you're looking for people that are going to be working for you, whether either they're contractors or whether they're people that are going to work for you, these are the things that you want to pay attention to if you really want that position filled by that knowledge. If you're into the mode of like, hey, we're all learning, let's all do this and stuff, great, beautiful. We love to do that. But if that's your focus, absolutely, these are little things you got to look at.
Yeah.
ALM. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that brings me to the end of what I had prepared. I really appreciate everyone's input because I know that, everyone's journey is different, and I think that we learn best from a variety of different experiences. So thank you for contributing. I think the main thing I want to do now is just open up for discussion and see if folks have questions that we have not touched on or just questions that you want to ask the group.
If you got a secret Power BI question, here's your expert right here, just in case. Why doesn't my query work when never mind.
I just so happen to be an expert in troubleshooting that kind of thing because I used to do it across oceans full time.
Can you imagine?
It was really fun, but I don't do that anymore.
Licensing questions, you can throw them in there too. I'll answer them. No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I feel like if people want to turn their videos on or come off mute, please feel free. And
we'll do it together mode then. If everyone comes on and is not in witness protection, we'll take a quick pics. Come join us.
Chuck, while you're here, we did pitch your 2021 Power App demo extravaganza. I saw that you had a post on that. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that since you're here.
Yeah. Autumn Schumann, your camera's very, very close. There you go. Now you see a face. Okay.
Yes.
It's a phone.
Oh, got it.
Let's pick a together mode view over here. That's going to work out.
Let me sit up on them. The Powerapps demo extravaganza is actually a lot of fun in that as a community, we get together, submit some kooky, fun, whatever sample that strikes your interest. And the community goes out and votes on which of those samples would they actually like to have a drill down into? How was it created? What anti-patterns did they run into? What best practices do they incorporate? Who helped them? Celebrating success is always a huge thing in the Power Platform. And it's kind of fun in that the winner gets to come out and do more work and more presentations. It'd be like having Tom Sawyer's fence painters go out and have a fence painting competition, and the winner gets to paint another fence.
Nice.
I don't know why people do it, but they do, and it's tons and tons of fun. My favorite would have to be the augmented reality Pokemon written by a mom who wanted to actually keep her kids entertained. Her name is Michelle Wong, and
yes,
and you could actually hold your phone up, so Autumn would know about this because she's a phone person, and you can actually put Pokemons anywhere you want in your room. You go out and say,
yes.
Hey, it's pretty cool. And she did that. I don't think she actually had any MR, augmented reality, or any of that. There you go. Any of that background, but she now knows how to do 3D modeling, and a lot of people helped her out to do that. It was very cool. So if you've got a sample that you've been wanting a forced function to go out and kind of get you moving, I love that together mode. That's awesome. This might be our opportunity. Oh, and we changed the rules to where you can actually now apply as a team. So if you don't think you actually have the time or the bandwidth to actually write an entire app, I crowdsource the entire Chicago user group and see, hey, why don't we do this? This sounds like a ton of fun. And then you could go out and put together an idea, maybe actually, I was going to say a certification app, but Maya's already writing that. I don't know if have you caught up with Maya at all, Shannon?
No, I have not.
Oh,
Maya,
yeah.
Maya from Maya and on the other side of the world.
Yes,
Yeah, we're trying to get her to speak, but this is like really late for her though.
Yeah. She's amazing. Take a look at some of the art she does. Her art is just.
Oh yeah, I know of her, but I have not connected with her about certification and stuff. So I would love to take a look at her app.
Shannon, we are actually missing a presenter for the Vancouver user group. Why don't you think it through, see if you're interested in doing it, and send me a piece of email, and I'll actually see if Scott Dro and Ollie, who are my co-owners, have found somebody. But it would be great to actually have you. It's kind of funny, as I'm sitting in Seattle, join us in the Vancouver user group. This is Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah.
There you go. That's May. Thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome.
Yeah, take a look at her.
She's very
Microsoft-
creative. She's very
Microsoft
creative.
certification application, but she's got a certification application for you, Shannon. So
Yeah, she's very creative in just in general. She's like all the kids in Rory's class and rolled into one.
Yeah.
In this particular case, so she's like, let's just say, to showing the power of the platform. No pun intended. All right. She came in, took it on, and within a very short period of time, has put her up to the level that if she's not going to be an MVP within the next 2 months, I'll be shocked.
I have her nomination in, but I haven't seen it come across my desk. Oh, maybe it went through Kelly's as a Power BI person. I don't know, but I just reviewed all of the candidates for this month, and she didn't make it. So I don't have any cert questions for you, Shannon. So I will cede the microphone to you and Craig and Ralph to close up.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Shannon. We appreciate it. Really, really great session. We love that you talked with us. We love that you didn't get mad if we sometimes butted in and added our 2 cents. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah,
to
we dropped condiments left and right. I mean, compliments. Well, condiments too. Yeah, but that's what happens.
Ralph drops the ketchup and the mustard.
Exactly. The usual, it gets on my shirt.
Goes on his hot dog.
No. Only certain condiments go in the hot dog. We're in Chicago, after all.
No ketchup for the hot dogs. You got to use that for your fries.
Maybe the fries.
What goes on a hot dog in Chicago?
So a hot dog, what goes in a hot dog? What goes in a hot Chicago dog? Okay, we got the mustard. We got your hot peppers. We got your celery salt.
You're doing it kind of backwards, but.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, hold on a second. Let me do it like they do it at Byron's. At Byron's, the mustard goes actually last because you got the onions. They put the peppers in there.
The relish.
The relish. They toss that in there. The last thing is the mustard on top. Goes.
They make it wrong. I've never seen that. I've always saw mustard, relish, onions, tomatoes, pickles, sport peppers, and then celery salt on the top.
You know what? Maybe they put mustard before they put mustard again.
And it's got to be a neon green mustard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, speaking of all this food talk, I am starving. It is after 8 here, so I am actually going to jump, feed this dog, feed myself. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was really great. And Chuck, let's be in touch.
And by the way, tell the dog we were not really talking about real dogs.
We'll let her know.
It's just an expression as humans use.
Shannon, send in that email now. It'll be in your inbox when we get back from there.
Perfect.
Cheers. Bye, folks.
All right. Take care.